What's good, everybody? It's your boy Kobe Cole from the Cole from Low Podcast, episode 8, Game 3 recap with the Boston Celtics. I got my OG with me once again, Mr. 411, and I got my homeboy with me, Nar from Nar Report.
What's
Gentlemen,
up?
how
What's
we
up?
doing today?
I'm doing great.
Life is good.
So, Game 3, Celtics 3-0 lead. I already know how that's going down. I'm loving it right now from Boston. But before we get into our recaps, MVP talk, star player, I'm gonna go on a little rant real quick. Boston people media has been criticizing Boston. Round one, they had Miami injured Jimmy Butler. Round two, they had the Cleveland injured Donovan Mitchell. Round three, they had the Pacers injured Tyrese Halliburton. No one's injured Dallas. They're up 3-0. Why we keep criticizing a Boston team that has got here? A Boston team that has beat every single body. A 60-plus win Boston team for not just the East, but also from the West. We can't criticize a Boston team that's doing every single way. A lot of people thought, oh, we're going to go back to Dallas. Okay, cool. They go to Dallas. They got a win in Dallas after being down, made a comeback, secured the win in Dallas. Jason Tatum get his criticism. Okay, cool. Let me go give you a 31-point game. So this Boston team just receives a lot of credit, a lot of criticism that I don't really understand where it's coming from. Maybe the history of Boston, or may it so be. But another thing that also goes into it is just because we want to see one player win. I want to see Kyrie win. Not no discredit to Luka, but Kyrie's my favorite point guard. So I'm gonna show bias. I want to see Kyrie win. But I'm gonna pick the better team. Kyrie Irving and Luka, yes, they're the better duo, doesn't take away from the fact that basketball is a 5v5 and the other three players matter, which Boston is showing right now. And one more thing before I toss it to whoever wants to speak next. I understand points win games. Don't get me wrong. But rebounds matter, assists matter, playmaking matters, defense matters. We shouldn't just credit one person just because they have more points. And we'll get into that when we get to the finals MVP conversation, because that's where that standpoint is coming from. But just because one person scores way more points and I'm way more 5 or more points, doesn't mean he's the best player, doesn't mean he's doing all the work, doesn't mean he should be finals MVP. Gentlemen, whoever want to go next is your floor.
Mr. Fawn, you can go first.
Okay, well, I mean, just to piggyback off of your rant there, Cole, it was a good rant, and it's a necessary rant because I noticed something that happened in this playoff. We went from the narrative of the Lakers, oh, they can beat everybody, they can win this whole thing. We went from that. We went from the Nuggets, they just don't have it. We went to Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan. He's the face of the league. You know, in other words, everything just kind of is by the media, mainstream media, which is media is flowing by the seat of their pants, just trying to jump on whatever next wave, right? Just like we talked about Kyrie and how Kyrie Irving. Now, a lot of people in the media and the sports world was down in Kyrie. The world is flat. Didn't take the shot, not the COVID shot. Doesn't want the vaccine. Doesn't want to play nice with his teammates. All this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden they make the finals. Oh, gotta owe Kyrie an apology. Gotta owe him this, owe him that. No, Kyrie has been himself the whole time. And the point made is a well made point about Boston. Let's not try to spin it now and move the goalposts all over the place. This team has 60 plus wins going into the playoffs. This team was good. They played the entire 82 game schedule, just like the other 30 teams in the league. So it's not that Boston is a fluke. Is don't take anything away from them because we can go into the archives and find all sort of NBA playoffs where you have injuries. Golden State Warriors went on a run one year in their run where Memphis Grizzlies lost Mike Conley. They lost another player. And in another round, Golden State played another team. I think it was Damian Lillard, and he and their team had injuries. So it's like I can all go all the way back to Isaiah Thomas. You talking about one of your favorite point guards all time. Mine is Isaiah Thomas from Detroit Pistons. And I remember where he got injured against the Lakers, which was my team, by the way. But he was my player. But still, he had a game where he scored 20 plus points in one quarter on a bum ankle. Imagine if he didn't get injured. Maybe that series, maybe Detroit beat the Lakers that year. Go back to when Detroit won. Magic Johnson pulled a hamstring, and Byron Scott got injured. And you can go all the way back through the end of time with basketball that you're going to have injuries, you're going to have this and that. At the end of the day, is your team deep enough? Is your team good enough to survive all the obstacles that you have to go through in order to win a championship? So if Boston finishes this thing out, give them their due, and let's move on. You, Nard.
All right, thank you, Mr. 411. So, piggyback off of Kobe's rant, yeah, the Boston Celtics had an easy cakewalk to the NBA Finals, easy path to win the championship. But the Boston Celtics, the way they've been playing throughout the whole NBA playoffs and the finals, they deserve to win it all. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they've been balling all series. Coaching has been amazing for the Boston Celtics. Despite that Porzingis is hurt. He will get a ring, by the way, since, But otherwise, though, I don't really have that much to say, but I picked the Dallas Mavericks because I wanted Luka to get a ring. But it just came to my head that the Boston Celtics had experience and Dallas only Kyrie had experience. So I just say that this series is over and the Boston Celtics deserve to win the NBA championship.
And just to piggyback off Nard right here, once again, like last episode, I gave a example of the Chiefs with NFL, the Chiefs and the 49ers. One team had experience, one team not so little but very talented. And it puts into where what I did last time. No, that was with Golden State and Boston. But nonetheless, Kristaps is hurt. So now you take away a big piece. Guess what? Boston still won. And any team from the East, you might as well say they had a cakewalk. Because I don't like the term cakewalk because, first of all, you're in the playoffs for a reason. Second of all, most of them teams that was in the playoffs all had at least 1 to 2 All-Stars or arguable 2 All-Stars on that team. 3, we want to talk about superstars and players. Yes, they all might be on the West. But any team that comes from the East would have been necessary cakewalk because Pacers, they beat an injured Bucks team. They beat an injured Knicks team. So not the only credit they would have got would have been Boston. So are we going to hype them up because they beat Boston but now finna play a Kyrie and a Luka? Same thing with the Knicks. They've been banged up. Why are we finna give them credit because they beat the teams they beat and then went and beat Boston? So it's like at this point, any team that came from the East would have been a necessary cakewalk, and now we're downplaying every team from the East. But now the team that deserved to be in the East, and mind you, I'm not a Boston fan, but what Boston did with the trades, the offseason, the way they've been playing this whole year, I've been picking them from day one. Because soon as they acquired Drew Holiday, that's when I picked Boston. Because you took away a piece from the Milwaukee Bucks, would have been your contenders, and made a team out of that. So that's how I feel when it comes to that whole cakewalk and all that. It's unnecessary because either way it would have went, you would have said the team in the East would have been a cakewalk. Versus the team in the West, my fault, Nard. Versus the team in the West would have went through hell and back. What you got, Nard?
Well, I was about to say, if it wasn't for the Boston Celtics to come out of the East, everybody would be saying the Pacers had an easy path to the finals because injured Bucks, injured Knicks, Celtics would have been the only upset for them in the playoffs. So that's what I had to say. Not only Boston would have had an easy cake.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So For example, if the Indiana Pacers were to make it out of the East to the NBA Finals, everybody would be talking about how they had an easy path to the Finals. Like I mentioned, the Bucks were hurt, the Knicks were hurt. The Celtics would have been the only upset, which the Pacers had a chance to beat the Celtics, but I think it was more of the players beating themselves. And yes, Tyrese Halliburton did get hurt, but they still had a chance. So we just got to accept the fact that Boston's the best team in the East, best team in the NBA, and they're in the NBA Finals, and they're one win away from winning it all. Kobe Cole, you can take the floor back.
We talked about this before though to a degree, but you know there's an 82 game season, so all these teams play each other. Yes, the East and West play each other twice, but they still play each other. And based on how this season was flowing, Boston did well against the Western Conference teams anyway. And
In the regular season, there was 2-0. Just not cut you off, but just to put it out there, there was 2-0 against Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, and so like if you think about it, we can say what it is, but let's go. We can go through the archives and dig up all the crates, and you'll find out that a lot of teams had injury advantages in specific rounds of playoffs and things like that. You can even look at the West this year, and yes, OKC had a great record, but you can also say, well, that's a young team. You know what I'm saying? And Dallas matched up against OKC, and they had the experience. You know what I mean? Because with Shea Alexander, with Gibbs Alexander with the foul, that's an inexperienced play. Like, you know what I'm saying, in that game. So with more experience, he's gonna come back around and not make that kind of foul, you know what I'm saying, late in the game on the last shot or things like that. So it could be, you can spin it all kind of ways. At the end of the day, if you survive the entire NBA season, you get to this point, you have to beat somebody or somebodies to win a championship. Nard said it himself. Like, there's people that picked Dallas before this series started. There's people that picked the Knicks to beat the Pacers in Game 7 in this year's playoffs, without Julius Randle and without Mitchell Robinson. So if that's the case, then maybe the Pacers didn't have a cakewalk of a series. So when we sit back and look at it when it's all said and done, I think, cooler heads will prevail on all this stuff. But it makes good conversation.
And before we slide on to the next topic, let's just go ahead and put this out there for the Mavericks. They played an injured Clippers team, but no one want to talk about that.
Right, Kawhi, right?
Let's go ahead and put something else out there. Second round, they played a young OKC team.
Correct.
We don't want to bring experience into that. So there you go. When do we get to the fact of the topic that either way we have to either split the fairness and talk about all of it, or admit we're being biased to one side because we want one side to win? Like Nar said, he chose Dallas because he wanted Luka to win the ring. In my heart, I'm rooting for Dallas because I want Kyrie to win. But we're being realistic as fans, sports analysts, sports watchers, wherever it's podcasters, wherever the title you want to give to yourself. Boston's the overall better team, which they be showing, which they've been showing all season. Just because media persuades you this way, which we're going to get more into about the media, you have to be realistic. Teams show you during the whole season what they're made of. Any more thoughts on that on that right here, guys?
Nope. Enjoying the games.
So sticking on the Dallas Mavericks side right here, let's talk about Dallas teams as in a whole. And Lars, since you was rooting for Dallas, I'm gonna kick this question to you, lead it off to Mr. 401, and I end the question off.
All right.
Who are you more disappointed with? The Dallas Mavericks being down 3-0 in the NBA Finals, or the Dallas Cowboys being first round exits to the Green Bay Packers?
I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys being a first round exit to the Green Bay Packers because the Dallas Cowboys are the better team than the Green Bay Packers. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Dallas Cowboys defense in that playoff game made Jordan Love look like primetime Aaron Rodgers out there. And I couldn't believe it from my own eyes. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys were the number 2 seed. Won the NFC East, 12-5, the Green Bay Packers, I don't even think they had experience like that, but the Cowboys had experience. And the Cowboys were at home. And I picked the Cowboys to win this game. But what I learned from it was the Dallas Cowboys are not a playoff team. They are a regular season team. And Dak Prescott is not built for playing in the playoffs.
More for me, is to answer your question, Cole, same as Nard, Dallas Cowboys. That's the more disappointing one. We could use the word experience for one. Dallas Cowboys are supposed to be a team that's been in the playoffs, like in the NFL playoffs, in comparison to Green Bay. Okay, talking about Dallas Cowboys playoffs. I know the Mavericks make the playoffs pretty much annually, but the Cowboys make the playoffs NFL. They're usually discussed as a team that's a Super Bowl contender, not the Mavericks, as far as being the NBA championship contender. Um, Dallas was a 5 seed in the playoffs, so they didn't have home court advantage pretty much in any round, right? To my recollection,
Yeah.
I don't think they had home court in any round. Um, Cowboys did, and the quarterback for Green Bay is a young guy that they drafted that a lot of people were not really that high on and love, and he kind of got his break finally because Aaron Rodgers moved on, and they shined. So and it's not the first time that the Cowboys have done this in the postseason. So expectation, all that, you roll that into one. Dallas Cowboys, hands down. I think the Mavericks have overachieved this season, so that gives them that break. The Dallas Mavericks have they're learning, they're getting their NBA Finals experience now as an organization with this era of Mavericks. So now this is their learning curve now. So it's got to be Dallas Cowboys hands down.
So for me, and I'm going ahead and say this now, disclaimer. It's a little more of a personal reason I'm saying this for me and my aspect. I'm more disappointed with the Dallas Mavericks. And the reason being is I never have faith in the Cowboys. They never get to the Super Bowl. Now, being first round exit to the Green Bay Packers was shocking. We do have to give some credit to Jordan Love and what he did because he also had a great game until the late fourth quarter against the 49ers. So he proved that Dallas game wasn't a fluke. How you look at it with late fourth quarter, it can go either way. But I never really suspect Dallas to get past nowhere but the NFC Championship. First round, second round, that's their essence for the Cowboys. It doesn't get to the Super Bowl. And that's what disappointed for them. But I'm more disappointed with the Mavericks is, yes, now compared to the Celtics, people will say you had the more tougher road. And realistically, they probably did. You beat the Clippers. You beat OKC. You beat, now you down 3-0 against Boston Celtics. Why are you down 3-0? That's where I'm disappointed as in this point right here. You're down 3-0 to, yes, a great Boston Celtics team. But you need to make this a matchup. You're here. You're at the big stage. You do what your Cowboys didn't. Yes, it's two different sports, but you're here. You're 3-0 to a team that other people thought or thinking as of right now or was thinking compared to you getting there, this team should be nowhere in the dog part with you. Now you got people and fans thinking, "Oh, we're gonna be the first team to come back 3-0." It shouldn't have got that far. 2-1 maybe. 2-1 maybe. 1-1. 2-1 the other way. Okay, but down 3-0. Lucas fouling out, complaining to refs. Now it's on the media again, picked on by his defense. That's a disappointing part about all this because you let it get to the point where you're down 3-0. And I just can't appreciate that. Compared to the Cowboys, and like I said, it's a little more personal. In my head, I know what to expect to the Cowboys. Before you get to the Super Bowl, either first round, second round, third round, you're out. Straight like that. And it's more so as the offense, you're right, Nard. The defense did look a little sus against the Packers. But more so the offense had me where I don't really trust you. I don't trust Dak in the big time moments. I don't trust the offense as a whole. Eventually, in the next year or two, I don't get nowhere. I don't think Dak will be there. And I think CD will be unhappy and he's gonna be ready to go and find somewhere to get paid or get him a championship. And I always been saying this: Michael Parsons eventually he's gonna want to leave. And reports has already been saying he never said disclaimer. He never said he wanted to leave or he will be leaving the Cowboys. But he said if an alter reality, if he ever had to go play for another team, he would go to the Pittsburgh Steelers because he would want to play for Mike Tomlin. Most players say that because, or say most players with that question, they say, I want to leave my team. I plan on retiring here, this, and that. It ended up come biting them in the butt, but that's what they say to avoid the media, avoid comfort for their team. You telling me off rip, you telling me in an alternate universe, I'll go play for Mike Tomlin. You're hinting that, hey, Mike, if you ever want to come snatch me from these boys, let me know. So that's why I'm more disappointed in Dallas because you can't be down 3-0 in a game like this and multiple chances also. It's a series of 7. You have to at least get one game. You shouldn't be down this much. That's why I'm that disappointed. Any more thoughts?
Yes, I agree with you, Kobe, when you said Dallas is down 3-0. They should not be down 3-0 right now. It should be 2-1 Celtics right now. Mavs should have won last night. Luka Doncic was the reason why Dallas lost that game last night. Too much complaining to the refs. Defense, not good. Got fouled out with 4:12 left to go, down 3. If Luka never got fouled out, Dallas would have won that game.
And that's why I feel like the Cowboy thing is more because of the expectation for what they expect. Even going into this NFL season, we're going to hear it. Super Bowl or bust for Cowboys. Super Bowl or bust for Cowboys. We don't hear NBA Finals or bust for the Mavericks. So that's why I lean more to the Dallas thing. But yeah, is it disappointing that you're in the finals and you're down 0-3? Of course. But I think that the Mavericks will be able to survive that because they're not that media magnet like the Cowboys are. No matter what's going on in NFL, the Cowboys are is as you said, Cole. In other words, like an unrealistic Super Bowl contender every year, and we know that what the end result may be, but they still push them as that. I guess because of the glory days of the '90s and then the glory
American
days of the
team.
'70s. Yeah, but Dallas, really, in all reality, Dallas ain't been good since the '90s, and they haven't been, and we are excellent since the '90s, and then you got to skip another decade and go back into the '70s before you say Dallas was excellent as well. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like you said, it's because they're America's team. Now, who am I more impressed with? I am more impressed with the Mavericks because you
Yeah,
did have a little tough road.
Absolutely.
I am impressed because you did beat the Clippers and I did leave a team off the Timberwolves. I'm gonna highly lift them off, but you beat the Timberwolves, you beat OKC, and you beat
The Clippers.
the Clippers.
Clippers. Hmm.
So you beat teams like that. I am more
It's a good
impressed
run.
than Dallas going in losing to Green Bay Packers. But in the standpoint, as in playoffs, as in first round exit, and where you at in the finals, that's where my disappointment comes from. And that's why I started this off with personal. I don't never see the Cowboys getting past 1, 2, 3 until it's just some year you prove me like this. That's them boys' year. They
You
look
were
like
born, y'all were born at the wrong time, so y'all didn't get to see
and
the
I
y'all
can't
didn't.
say
No,
I
what I'm
can't
saying
say
is
I
y'all didn't
seen
get
the
to
glory
see
days.
that.
Yeah, I didn't see the glory days. My dad, he's a Cowboys fan. He talk about the glory days all the time.
Yeah,
He talk about
yeah,
the glory days and show me
yeah.
the highlights.
He living in the past.
Yeah, he live in the past. And I ain't mad at it because sometimes as a Steelers fan, I live in the past
Yeah,
with being Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell. We ain't wearing nothing, but
yeah,
what was it fun to watch?
yeah.
So
You'd have loved the
I'm
steel
more
curtain.
a Cowboys fan. My dad, the Eagles fan. So you know how that rivalry gets in the family.
Yeah,
But
that's rough.
I'm more impressed with the Mavericks because the road they took. But I'm disappointed because you're down 3-0. That's what
Yep.
let me down. All right, fellas, ready to get into game 3?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right, starting with you, Mr. 4-1. What's your takeaway and insights for game 3?
Wow, game 3. Hey, y'all. Now I know we're disappointed that it's 0-3, right, for the Mavericks on the Mavericks side of things. But 2 of the 3 games were good games. 2 of the 3 games were somewhat in the balance. So they was. It's not like they that far off. That 3-0 can be a little deceiving. Dallas has done a solid job. They're just not better than Boston. Why? Why are they not better than Boston, in my opinion? Well, Boston defensively, they're not switching as much. So they're not allowing Dallas to have those advantages that they had against Minnesota. They're not allowing Dallas to flow like their offense was flowing against Minnesota Timberwolves. They're not putting like Minnesota put Rudy Gobert in bad spots, right? He's a defensive player of the year. He deserves it. Not I don't care what Draymond Green says because Rudy Gobert affects the team defensive ratings. The problem was Dallas, what they were doing, Minnesota didn't counter it to keep their players at an advantage. What I mean by that is, if you notice, Boston is they're denying the lob, they're minimizing the lob play. Dallas does not have a player that can play in the post outside of Luca, and that's why I was saying on the last episode, Luca needs to start in the post. Then you can suck the defense in, then you can kick it out for open jumpers. That's for another segment. But at the end of the day, they're taking away the lob play. So what they're doing is sagging back. They're in a dunker spot on defense. They're face guarding the bigs for Dallas that like to jump and catch the alley oops. And in the screen and roll, they're forcing Luca to be in a screen and roll without a big as the player that's going to pick him up. So therefore, that player has the foot speed to stay in front of Luca. Yes, Luca can still score on that player because he uses his size and strength, but it's not the same where you have the double threat of Luca either scoring or throwing that lob, making it super easy for the others, if you will. And so they've taken that away, and then they're also making it tougher on Kyrie. Now Kyrie broke out in this game, but overall, it's still making it tougher for them to score. And if they do score, it's more so because Luca is kind of doing it the one-on-one style, which at the end of the day is not going to be the team like Boston. So that's the main thing that I saw. The other thing is that on the offensive end, Boston moves the ball a heck of a lot more than the Mavericks have been moving the ball. And when you move the ball like Dallas, I mean, the way that Boston is doing it, they're driving, kick, drive, kick, swinging around to an open shot, for an open jump or drive to the lane. So they're moving the ball and sharing it a lot more. Those things right there equal winning. And so when you do that, you're involving more of your team, and everybody's getting a little piece of that pie, and they're ready to go when their number's called. So those are the things that Boston is doing a lot better than Dallas.
On you, Nart.
All right. My biggest takeaway from the game was Luka Doncic fouled out. And it was huge for the Dallas Mavericks because that really cost them the game. Luka fouled out, 27 points, down 3 with 4:12 left to go in the fourth quarter. They were down 21, cut it to 3. And at one point, it was a 1-point game, but Boston ran away with it, hitting clutch time shots. Derek White, Jaylen Brown in the clutch, big time. What else? Oh, Kyrie Irving, big game, 35 points. Luka had 27. Role players, still not there. The coaching, I don't know what's going on. But I think the coaching is the reason why the Mavs are down 3-0 right now because the role players ain't doing nothing. Luka, Kyrie's the only one showing up so far. And another thing, like you said, Mr. 401, Boston is rotating the ball. Dallas is just playing more like ISO ball, just throwing up shots.
That's their game.
You can defend that a lot better. Like it's a lot easier to defend ISO ball than ball movement, player movement.
Yeah.
And they're also picking on Luca. So Dallas is finding, Boston is finding Luca.
Before you get into that, I'm gonna say that question before you get into the spiel about.
Oh, okay, my bad. Oh, my bad. Let me pull back.
You are good. You are good. You are good. Jump ahead of the man. But Nard, did you finish up what you had to say, Nard?
No, not really. But
Go ahead,
I was saying that
Your flow.
Boston moves the ball really well. Dallas is playing more like ISO ball. And another thing, Luka was doing too much complaining last night to the referees. All those fouls that he had to foul on. It was a foul, and there was no need for you to complain about. He was frustrated. Luka Doncic, despite the 27 points, I just think that his mentality wasn't there last night for the Dallas Mavericks.
Great point.
You good, Nart?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So, before we jump into ahead of schedule, thank you to Mr. 401. um, just a couple insights. Just to say, guys, Jason Tatum finally had his game. Jaylen Brown did drop 30, but Jason Tatum, for all the viewers and listeners out there that have been complaining about Jason Tatum and his points, 31 points. I gotta say this in the microphone a little louder. 31 points, Jason Tatum away on game 3, guys. People been complaining about that a little too much just because he had a couple points lesser than Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown. But guess what? Your 31 points has been brought to you by Jason Tatum. Now, also, as we're getting to Mr. Performance, going to get into the spill about Luka Doncic. And Nara, I like what you said about the ISO ball. Yes, but I do feel like ISO ball is their game. Luka's their best player, and that's their downfall when you get into that duo talk and the best player talk. ISO ball is always going to be in the best player hands because ISO ball. Then the Boston Celtics, everybody can share the ball because everybody gonna make a shot. They're one of the best 3-point shooting teams, best scoring teams there. And like you said, role players not doing so well because before going into the third quarter, PJ Washington had 1 point. Now he came back. I think he ended with 17 points. Let me fact check that. He ended with 13 points. But
13 and 8.
But going into the third quarter, he had 1 point. And that's not a good look when you're really the third option and you've been a third scoring option this whole series. Now, Mr. 401 of a couple episodes back, I want to say not game 1, episode 1 maybe, not episode 1. The game 1 recap. You talked about Tim Hardaway. His minutes has increased. He got 19 minutes this game. Not the biggest one to see for Tim Hardaway. He had like the sixth most minutes, but still want to see that. And to Nard's point, I disagree with what you said about coaching. Coaching does fall back a little bit when it comes to a lot of sports. But right here with these games, other than like certain adjustments, I don't necessarily think it's the coach's fault. And the reason I say this is Derek Jones Jr. has 2 points. Daniel Gafford 6, PJ Washington 13. Kepler 0, Hardaway 0, Lively 11, Josh Green 3, Edson 2. And my reason being saying them numbers are your players have to play. I can draw up a perfect game plan. I can draw up a good play. Football, I can draw this play. You got to catch the ball. You got to shoot well in basketball. If I draw you a wide open play in basketball for the corner, and you're 9% for the corner, but you keep missing the corner that game, that's not the coach's fault. I just personally feel like every single role player in the Mavericks is not showing up. The only people that's showing up is either Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving. Now, first 2 games, Kyrie has been down, but game 3 he showed up. Where's the role players at? And that's kind of your biggest downfall in game 3 against the Boston Celtics.
But gentlemen, let's see here. Drew Holiday, and I said this, right? When we talked about MVP conversation on the last episode. Drew Holiday doesn't have the pressure to have to score every night. He can have another night like last night he had 9 points. Nobody's talking about he had a down game.
Yeah.
So the point is, like, Al Horford 8 points, Sam Hauser 9, Xavier Tillman, who played for a little bit, 3 points. So it is what it is. This Boston is a better two-way team. They have better two-way players. They play better on the defensive end of the floor, and they have better play on the offensive end of the floor, 1 through 12 or however number of guys they play on a nightly basis. So that's kind of like the key difference. Dallas has, like, defensively, there's too many flaws there on defense. and we'll get into the rest of that later. But I just want to throw that in there as well. That some of this is Dallas. I mean, some of this is Boston, and that they are able to play better team defense, and they're playing better team offense.
So as we're getting into that, now we go into where one of the questions is going to be for today. Luka Doncic and his defense. Now we all know how great a scorer Luka Doncic can be, but his defense is a little, what's the word, sketchy at times, and they
That's a good
have been
word.
abusing the defense. So what is for one?
That's a good word.
Yeah, and they have been abusing his defense very much so these past couple games, especially game three. And now again, his head got frustrated, got fouled out. So, Mr. 4-1, since you was already going down that path, you can go ahead and start us off. Nard, you go behind that, and I'll put
All
my
right.
thoughts in wrapping it up.
All right, no problem, guys. Yeah, they picked on Luca. They're Luca hunting, and they've been doing it for the last couple of games, and I don't blame them. Luca, that's not his strength. And how do you kind of help negate some of that offense that Luca has, some of that offensive firepower? How would you try to take an opposing center out of the game? If I take you back to the days of Shaquille O'Neal in his prime days, you get you go at the player that you're trying to get out the game. You go at the player that's putting up a lot of points. And since Luca's not a two-way player, we found his weakness. Let's exploit it. That's where Dallas have. I mean, Boston have the type of players, those 6'8" to 6'10" players, 6'10" players that can force the issue. So basically, they're trying to find Luca, blow by him, and now guess what? The defense has to scramble. So they're going to get a shot. They're going to get a look. The last game, they shot 41 3-pointers. Part of the reason why Boston had that many 3-point attempts because they're blowing by Luca, kicking it out to somebody. They just wasn't making their threes. So that's the whole thing here. They just blowing by Luca and his foot speed, lack thereof, and lack thereof of defensive effort. And so that's something Luca needs to look into in the offseason heading into next year. I'll pass to you, Nard.
All right. So what was the question again? I missed that.
Oh, thank you. Might be mute, Cole.
How do we feel about Luka defense and how it's been exploited in game three?
Luka's defense wasn't that much of a good defense. I know Luka Doncic can't play defense, but he should have been playing defense a lot. He should be playing more of off-ball defense instead of playing on-ball defense. Luka Doncic fouled out the game, 6 fouls. I feel like you got to manage your foul trouble. When you have at least 4 fouls, you got to manage your defense. And your head, you got to be like, all right, I got 4 fouls. I can't afford to get fouled out this game. My team needs me. So I got to find a better way to play defense. And I feel like Luka Doncic, when he got to 4 or 5 fouls, he did not have a mindset of how can I play better defense without fouling. So that's my standpoint on Luka playing defense.
And I agree. And this is one of the things I talk about with basketball a lot. We always talk about the great scorers, the great basketball players, and then we get into the great defenders when it's just playing by defense. But as Mr. Foreman was saying, two-way players. Two-way players means a lot. If you can't play defense, you're going to get exploited. You might be the great offensive player, and that's where one of my biggest pet peeves come in basketball, MVP conversation, everything, and especially when it comes to like pick up basketball with your friends.
Yeah.
Everybody's so scoring, shoot the three, lay it up. Hey, can you get a bucket? Okay, you're on my team. But what happens when it's time to play defense? So now you're in a game where you got to win by 2 and the score is 20-20 because nobody can play defense. When the game was supposed to stop at 12 or 11. and that's my whole, like, I appreciate defense so much. If you ever play basketball with me, I'll tell anybody, I don't got to score the ball. I play defense on your best guy. Because defense means so much. If you can't play defense, you're going to get exploited. And then what's the meaning of your offense? You're just going to go 3 for 3 and wait till one of them miss a shot? Where the number is miss a shot. And now I'm just going to go at your head all game. And that's just the thing with Luka. As great as an offense scorer he can be, and the stats he pulled up and the foul trouble that he's getting in. It was a stat. I think it was by ESPN Sports Center. It was posted on the broadcast. I can't remember what the initial source was. It was so I want to say was legit because the initial source was ESPN Sports Center somewhere. But I think the stat was he has more fouls than wins in playoffs, somewhere in that sport, which is very interesting because you're the best player on the team. It can go either way. People should realize as this point in their careers, Luka's better than Kyrie. Now that could be arguable depending on who you argue with, but as in this point of their careers, we might well go ahead and say it's Luka's team. Luka's better than Kyrie. You can't be getting fouled out. That's just not the thing or the rightful thing to do when you're the best player. Especially when Nard said Luka's mentality, his headspace might just be somewhere else. And it might not, it just might be your head's not in the game because you're getting frustrated with refs too quickly.
Hey man, he was constantly under attack in this series. Boston came in, you could tell they came in with a game plan of let's attack Luca, let's attack him every offensive possession. Let's attack him. Let's keep attacking him. And it's gonna wear him down a little bit, or it's gonna wear him down physically or mentally. And I think it's a little bit of both. And when you're constantly being picked on defense, it will affect you mentally. And he broke because when he tried that block charge call, when I immediately said to myself, that's a blocking foul when I saw the play.
He wasn't said at all. He was moving the whole
Right.
time.
He wasn't legal or anything. And that's one of those, man, I'm tired mentally. I'm checked out type of fouls. I'm sick of this. I'm a dive over here. I'm gonna step in and hopefully they're just because my name's Luka Doncic because I'm a superstar, they're not gonna foul me out. That was that type of foul. And
Especially with these refs.
well, yeah, I mean, this is the highest levels of officials that you're going to get. These are NBA officials. They get evaluated on every play. They have to watch film after the game. They got to do a game report and submit plays that they were involved in, and stuff like that. So they're trying. There's only like 60 of them in the world, so they're trying to keep their job. Um, but at the same time, with Luka Doncic, he's not used to playing defense. He's not used to it. He's not used to being put under attack like this. Like again, if you watch this series against Minnesota, he was not under attack like this. And so, that's a learning curve for Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. They have to figure out what they need to do next year, to get back to this point.
So we've been talking about Mavericks. Let's swing up to the Boston Celtics sides real quick. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Right now, as everybody suspected, it's the top two people for Finals MVP. Now, kicking off with you, Nard, who would be your Finals MVP? If it ended right now, them two, minus game 4 of every game, who would be your Finals MVP? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And then your explanation behind that.
To me, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum because I feel like franchise players, superstar players become Finals MVP, but I'll say Jason Tatum because he's been playing so good so far in the finals. Not the way, but he hasn't been shooting the ball well in the first 2 games. But last night, 31 points. And I believe that Jason Tatum will win the Finals MVP because he's playing like he wants to win it. Not saying that Jaylen Brown isn't doing good, but I'm going to go with Jason Tatum because he looks so motivated to get the Finals MVP. And that's it.
Yeah. Is it coming to my way now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, I agree with Nard. It's Tatum. Just to go back to what we talked about in the last episode, if we go back and look at the output for Drew Holiday, 6 of those assists came from Tatum. Tatum's playmaking has been there. And again, we talked about how Luka's been put under pressure. Brown and Tatum have constantly been driving to that basket, and that constantly been putting pressure on the defense, constantly putting pressure on Dallas. And Jaylen Brown, this is no knock to Jaylen Brown. He's doing his job. It's one of those situations where, yeah, it's gonna be close. It could go. You could like if Jaylen Brown wins MVP, I wouldn't be upset about it. I wouldn't be mad. But I do think that Tatum And it's not because of star power and not because of his name and all that. I just believe him in this playoffs, he's done what he needed to do each game for his team to have this success. Are the other players around him doing their jobs? Yes, but a lot of that is because of Jason Tatum and the way he's playing, which opens and unlocks things for a lot of his teammates. So for me, it's Jason Tatum, Finals MVP, and I give that nod because of the playmaking of Tatum.
All right, so I'm looking at this three ways. I'm looking at it as the podcaster, sports analyst side of me. I'm looking at that the fan side of me, personal belief, and then I'm looking at it as the uh the political way. Fan side of me, I'm a big fan of Jason Tatum, love his game. I think he deserves it. Not saying Jalen Brown doesn't deserve it, but also saying Jason Tatum do deserve it. The sports analyst in me, Jason Tatum, for side 2 games, has been 5 or less points. We praise points so much, and fans, media praise points so much, and it shouldn't be that. Like I said in the beginning of my rant in the first 2-3 minutes of the podcast episode, it comes way more than just points. Even though that's at the end of the day, most points win the games. Rebounds, defense, playmaking, assists. The first 2 games, Jason Tatum had more than Jalen Brown, with only 5 or less points being a differential over the points. Game 2, more, 5 less points differential. Game 3, this is the first time Jalen Brown he ended with 8 and 8, so that's 16. Jason Tatum ended with 6 and 5, so that's 11. But points wise, 31-30. Now, that's why Jason Tatum, other than points, has been more efficient all around than Jalen Brown. Now, going to the political side of it, I don't think the fan side of it don't want Jason Tatum to win. I want to not want Jason to win. They don't see Jason Tatum winning because they expect much more out of Jason Tatum. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, and I'm not saying that. But sometimes when it comes to certain superstars, your expectations can be a little too high. And y'all expecting him to go drop 30 points a game or 25 plus. He doesn't have to do that. And that's just the realistic side of it. Jason Tatum doesn't have to go drop 30 to 25 points a game to win the finals. Because at the end of the day, yes, the plus is winning finals MVP. But it's also winning the finals, getting the championship ring. Because guess what? If you don't win the championship at all, the finals MVP don't matter. If he doesn't win the championship, y'all gonna bash his head even more because it's Jason Tatum and his political side of it fan base. And then it goes into the rumors. They should break the Celtics up. The Celtics can't get it done. It's the third or fourth time it didn't happen. So I'm gonna go with Jason Tatum for this conversation. I'm gonna keep arguing with it. Because yes, Jalen Brown's playing great. Yes, he's been efficient. But what Tatum doing all around, I would have to go Tatum. And that's also with the stats. I just think the expectations they're putting on Tatum is making a downgrade for his final MVP case. And that's I just can't get down with that.
Yep, looks like a landslide there for Tatum for us.
Yeah.
So getting to game 4, what are your expectations out of game 4? Oh, but I'm sorry. Before we get into game 4, we didn't get really talk about this real quick. We're gonna keep this real short and quick. Kyrie Irving did have his big game. We did mention it, and Jason Tatum had his big game. How do y'all feel? We'll start with Kyrie. How do y'all feel Kyrie having his big game and the team still getting the loss?
I mean, it falls right into the plan of Boston. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to stop Kyrie. You're not going to stop Luca. You're not going to stop Tatum. You're not going to stop Brown. The top level players are going to get theirs one way or another. It's all about how they get theirs. And according to Boston's defensive strategy, yeah, okay, this time it was Kyrie that went off, but again, y'all talked about it earlier. The others didn't go off, and that's mainly by design. So yeah, if Kyrie's going off, hey, you live with that. You don't get beat up by that because Kyrie's one of the most gifted players out there. So it to me, it all comes down to how they get their points. So yes, good for Kyrie. I wasn't surprised that he was going to have a good game. I wouldn't be if this series was a longer series. I wouldn't be surprised if we had more 20+ point games. But the bottom line is Dallas, are they getting those lobs? Are they getting those easy baskets for the other guys? And until that happens, Boston's gonna pretty much be in position to win their games.
All right. So for me, I expect Luka Doncic to have a better game defensively. Offensively, I believe he was there, but defensively, I believe Luka Doncic will have a better game. His mentality will be better this game. And hopefully, I be saying this every episode. Hopefully, the role players step up. Like, when are the role players going to show up? It's like they don't even want to be in the finals. So,
Yeah, I feel like man, I just feel like until Luca plays out the post, it's gonna be this back and forth. And I think Dallas needs to just think about it in the offseason of figuring out ways to readjust their strategy or bring in another player that can get their own if you're going to play this style. So you maybe have to get one more player that knows how to get their own bucket, like a Kyrie. You know what I'm saying? Like get another type of player that can get their own shot on their own no matter what. And that might help unlock some more things for Dallas. Otherwise, Luka's going to have to play out the post and kick it out to guys who can't get their own shot.
All good stuff. All good stuff. All right. So game 4, either sweep or push it to game 5. Starting
game
with you,
five.
Lord. I want your outstanding player, your scorer, your winner.
All right. I got the Dallas Mavericks winning game 4, forcing the game 5 back in Boston. Luka
Hmm.
Doncic, player of the game. He'll have a 30 ball. Luka and Kyrie will have 30 points for game
Luka better
4.
have 40.
Yeah, or 40. I'll take. But my score will be, I'll say 110 to 108.
Oh, and then just in case Boston wins, give me your finals MVP.
Jason Tatum.
All right, Mr. 401.
All right. Well, I picked Dallas for game 3 because I had Boston winning game 4, but it's going to be flipped around the other way. So Dallas will win game 4. I think they'll win this game in probably, I don't want to say easy fashion because it's not going to be easy for Dallas. And Boston's going to try to go for it. They don't want this to hang around now that they got the 3-0. But I think Dallas has a little bit of pride left. They're going to give that out of body experience for game 4, at least in the season on a high note for their fans with a W. So Luca is going to be the most outstanding player in this game. He won't foul out. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that he won't foul out this next game. Um, give you a score. Gonna go 112 Dallas, and for Boston it'll be 100. So it'll be 112 to 100 Dallas. They'll
Okay.
pull this out. It'll go back to Boston, and we'll see what happens there.
So going into game 4, I'm gonna go. I want Boston to win game 5 at home for the championship. So I'm gonna go Dallas. I'm gonna go Dallas. I do see Boston could sweep. It is a big possibility because how the last 3 games played. So I do see. I'm not saying they won't sweep, but just because I do want them to go to game 5 and then win home, I'll just play Dallas for this case. But I go Dallas. I go player of the game, Kyrie Irving. Bias again. Bias again. No real reason. Fans, no real reason. I'm gonna tell you when I be biased. Bias again. My bias is going to Kyrie Irving. I go 105 to 100 Dallas, and then if Boston wins, I'm gonna go the other way. Finals MVP, Jason Tatum. Player of the game, Jason Tatum.
But and by the way, I did. I don't think I gave you this. Maybe I did, but if Boston does win, Tatum's MVP, and I think we've been sticking with that the entire time anyway. But
Yep.
Jason Tatum will get the MVP
All right,
if
fellas.
Boston wins.
All right, fellas. Any closing remarks?
Nope.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you for having us on.
And once again, man, I appreciate y'all coming on. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to Mr. 401 on YouTube at 401 Sports World, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to follow Nard at the Nard Report, Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget your boy, your co-host, not co-host, your host, your moderator, Cole from the Low, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I appreciate y'all viewers. Have a great rest of y'all day.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right.